Here is something I hear all the time from people relocating to Ann Arbor. Come in thinking that you're moving to Ann Arbor because it's the largest major city and it's the largest job hub in the area. And then they start realizing that they've actually got a few different options. You know, they start stumbling upon cities in the surrounding area that have kind of a nice little downtown feel to it. It's kind of a small town vibe, or you find a lake community nearby, or better yet, you find some really big homes on some really big lots. And you quickly realize that living in the city is not the only option that you have. And this is what today's video is all about. You know, Ann Arbor on its own is one of the strongest job markets in the area and in the country. US News ranks it in the top 10 nationally. You got the University of Michigan, Michigan Medicine alone, they employ over 40,000 people here locally. Those are research institutions, you got tech companies, the healthcare system is there. There is an abundance of opportunity in the Ann Arbor job market and brings people in from all over the country. But, and there's always a but, you know, where those people actually choose to live, that's a much more interesting story. And I'm sure you're curious in learning more about it. Hey, if we're meeting here for the first time, my name is Meldrum. My team and I help people just like you guys relocate to Ann Arbor and the surrounding areas, and I call it the Ann Arbor orbit. And today I want to walk you through, through 5 completely different ways to live in and around the Ann Arbor area, and who knows, you might just find exactly what you're looking for. And make sure you subscribe to the channel and you tap that bell so you're notified every time I come out with a new video, which is every single week and sometimes 2 a week. So here's what I mean by the Ann Arbor orbit. You know, Ann Arbor becomes the hub of it all. This is the major job market, the major city, here locally that pulls a lot of people in. So in today's video, we're gonna explore 5 cities, 5 completely different versions of a great life. So let's walk through each one of them. All right, so first up, let's start with Saline, Michigan. Now, Saline is just south of Ann Arbor. It sits about 15 minutes south off of US 12. Saline does have a real community, okay? Has its own identity, its own downtown, its own events, and it doesn't just feel like it's there to serve Ann Arbor. It was started as a small town, and as Ann Arbor has grown, which is, this orbit effect that has taken place is, the housing market in Ann Arbor starts pushing people out just that naturally. There's local restaurants, there's farmers markets on the weekend, community events, all year round. Streets are walkable, and the neighborhoods there are established, and there's also new developments that are taking place. There's a wide range of inventory that covers a lot of different price points in and around Saline. You can find some small ranches, and you can find some historic homes that have been completely renovated, restored. And then you also have some of the subdivisions that have been mainly established, as that connector between Ann Arbor and Saline. As you can see here, I can keep going on because there's so many different lifestyles in and around Saline that you can choose from, but just know you got some options. And just a quick pulse on the real estate market in general in Saline. The average home value is right around $427,000, and the average home is sitting on the market 48 days. Now, keep in mind, these are averages. For the right homes in Saline, those are going super quick, okay? Saline's got great schools, and families and people definitely want to be there. And Saline is not the city that's flying under the radar anymore. It's not like you found a hidden gem here. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's pretty established, and people do want to be there. So when something priced very well comes to market in a good neighborhood, buyers do move on it quick. So come prepared if Saline is where you're looking. All right, so the next city we're gonna take a look at is Ypsilanti, Michigan. Now, I'm gonna put this on the screen so you guys can look at the spelling of Ypsilanti and let me know if you would say Ypsilanti or try to sound it out. Okay? Nobody from who's not from Michigan can really say Ypsilanti when they see it for the first time, but a lot of locals just call it Ypsi for short, and Ypsi is the closest city to Ann Arbor, in this whole video that I'm going to cover. It's about 10 minutes east, and for some people who work on the eastern side of campus in that corridor, this is even a shorter commute. So if proximity is the #1 thing that you're looking for, Ypsilanti is worth a real look because it's super close to Ann Arbor. And a little bit about Ypsi, you got a growing art community. There's a historic district called Depot Town, and they got a lot of old brick buildings, a lot of local breweries, independent restaurants, live music venues. They also have another university, so Eastern Michigan University is there, and it gives it that campus town energy that kind of keeps things a little bit fresh. So there's a lot of college students in and around Ann Arbor and Ypsi, so there's a lot of crossover, from the universities as well. And most people think of this as Ann Arbor's little brother or sister, however you want to call it, but it does have its own identity, okay? Like Ypsilanti is not just living in the shadows of Ann Arbor. It's not trying to be Ann Arbor. And I think that's really what a lot of people like about Ypsi is there is a general sense of a different identity from Ann Arbor to Ypsi. And when it comes to homes in Ypsilanti, this gives you a lot of choices. Okay, you've got historic homes with a ton of character. There's a lot of older neighborhoods. In Depot Town, you're going to find craftsmen, bungalows. You'll also find some newer construction homes mixed in and around there as well on the edges of town if you go into like Ypsilanti Township. The housing market there covers a wide range, from character to price ratio. But when it comes to the average home in Ypsilanti, you're looking at about $315,000 for the average home. And then days on market is around 34. So a little bit tighter market than say our neighbor to the south of Saline, but the price point is a little bit lower. And people feel really good about their decision once they land there and start seeing their value of their home go up. All right, so moving on to the next city, we're looking at Dexter, Michigan. Now, Dexter sits about 20 minutes northwest of Ann Arbor, and you could be into the city a little bit sooner than 20 minutes. All right, so a little bit about Dexter. The downtown is kind of the crown jewel in Dexter. That's where everyone kind of congregates and goes. This is where the Huron River runs through. So you got the Huron River running right through the downtown. There's red brick sidewalks, there's local shops, there's restaurants, kind of got that character to it. And then you got the Dexter Cider Mill, which has been there since 1886. Okay, you guys, this isn't some like cute branding exercise that Dexter put on. Like that cider mill's been there for a long time, like actually 140 years old. Okay, and that's the staple in and around the community. Okay, and in addition to that, you got farmers markets, community events year round that bring the community, all downtown and bring them together. So when you're living in Dexter, this is the thing that really gets people drawn to it. You drive 5 minutes outside of the downtown and you're in open countryside, like you're in farmland, you're in acreage, you got the Huron River winding through it. So it's rare to find a community where you generally have both of those options available to you, and Dexter definitely has them. And honestly, the housing market in Dexter is super tight because of it. When you're looking for homes, you do got a wide range of options. You got a mix of historic homes downtown. These are Victorians, craftsman style homes. There is a few mid-century modern builds, in the tree-lined streets, but there's still a lot of established neighborhoods in Dexter. And a lot of families like Dexter. And I say families because, the high school there and the school system is really top rated. So if you are looking for a home in Dexter, the average home value is $503,000, and homes are sitting on market for just about 26 days before going pending. And like I said, the real estate market in Dexter moves extremely fast. There's a very limited amount of inventory to go around. So when the right home does come up, you're definitely going to want to get on that quickly. And the people who end up in Dexter are very deliberate about it. They're looking for that community over kind of convenience. Having all the conveniences of Ann Arbor is really great, but they're also looking for that downtown community feel, that small town feel, summer festivals, farmers markets, the whole 9 yards. All right, so 2 more cities to go, and the next one I'm going to share with you, I think, is a very underrated city in Southeast Michigan that I'm excited to tell you about. And the last one I got for you is actually where I live. So I got a little bit more to say about that one. So the next city we're looking at is Chelsea, Michigan, and Chelsea sits about 30 minutes to the west of Ann Arbor. It's right off of I-94, and it's a very small town, okay? And it's growing, but there's very small town feels. A little bit about Chelsea, and I always bring this up because I'm a huge Dumb and Dumber fan, and the actor Jeff Daniels actually grew up in Chelsea, Michigan.
Huh? Pull over! No, it's a cardigan, but thanks for noticing.
If you're a Dumb and Dumber fan, okay, I'm here for you. Like, my people, right? I love that movie. It still cracks me up today. But Jeff Daniels actually came back to Chelsea to start a professional theater company that draws in nearly 40,000 visitors a year.
You gotta be in New York or you gotta be in LA.
Yeah. What do you mean you're going to Michigan? Why? Well, it's home.
And 25 years ago, building his own Purple Rose, the Purple Rose Theater.
And it's been running since 1991. They do the world premieres, it's only in a town of about 5,000 people, so the one fact tells you a lot about who lives in Chelsea. They care about the theater, they care about the arts, and that's what you're gonna see in and around the Chelsea area as well. So the downtown itself has very early 1900s vibes. It's a locally owned restaurants, boutiques, coffee shops. They also have the Waterloo Recreation Area right there, which is access to tons of trails You know, it's some of the best hiking and biking trails in the whole entire county. And when it comes to the real estate in Chelsea, there's a mix of historic downtown homes on smaller lots. They got more established neighborhoods, you know, with houses with mature landscaping and mature trees. What you're gonna find a lot of is more rural properties with real acreage. There's been some new construction development that's happened. However, the inventory is really thin in Chelsea. Okay, like, I mean thin. Like, there's not a lot of homes for sale really ever in Chelsea. And that should tell you something about the area. It is a smaller town, but people really don't want to leave. They love living in and around the Chelsea area for a lot of those reasons. But here's some quick market data on Chelsea. You know, the average home value is sitting right around $371,000, and the average days on market is around 88 days. Most of the time, these homes are going super quick. And the last city on our list today, we were looking at Brighton, Michigan, and this is where we landed when we moved out of Ann Arbor, and we started looking at some of the orbit cities. And Brighton really drew us in. You know, we looked at Dexter, we looked at Saline, and these were really good contenders. So that was our preference. We moved north, and simply because my wife's parents were actually in the Flint area, they're now in Fenton, so we wanted to move north. So Brighton gives you more of a version of life in one place than anywhere else in this orbit. You know, if you want a walkable downtown, Brighton has one. If you want a mill pond at the center of it and a boardwalk and the Tridge kind of overlooking the mill pond, you want locally owned restaurants, you want boutiques, you want a good social district, you want an events calendar, holy crap, there's so much going on downtown Brighton all the time. You know, this is a town where you're going to find a lot of shopping. This is where the Costco's at. This is where a lot of department stores, and Brighton kind of becomes that feeder hub for some of the surrounding communities as well. If you're a Gilmore Girls fan, God bless your heart. I didn't even know what it was until this event took over our city here, but it brings in about 40,000 people a year, and the whole entire downtown transforms into Stars Hollow. Okay, and if you know what that is, that's the downtown in Gilmore Girls. So that's a big festival. In addition to that, you know, the Taste of Brighton, Smoking Jazz Fest, there's so many things that are happening. So if you're in the Brighton area, when it comes to, you know, lifestyle, you know, if you want lake living, Brighton's surrounded by lakes. You know, you got Brighton Lake, Orr Lake, Chemung, Woodland, Crooked Lakes. And in addition to that lifestyle, if you do want acreage and some privacy, you can drive 10 minutes outside of Brighton in any direction, any of the townships, and you're looking for land, larger lots. There's a lot of established subdivisions. You can find places with pole barns. You can find some room to just kind of spread out. And this is not uncommon. You know, in the surrounding cities, there are some newer subdivisions as well. That's where you're going to find some lakefront properties, homes on larger lots, you know, and the price range in Brighton is pretty wide too, you know. So if you are looking for a town that does have good schools, Brighton area schools are top rated. And then when it comes to getting out in nature, you do have the Huron Meadow Metro Park, you got Island, Lake, Brighton area recreation. You know, these are all pretty much year-round places you can go. And the average price home in that area is going to run you right around $450,000. Now, that doesn't include condos and single-family homes. And the average days on market is right around 5 days to pending. So again, very tight market in a lot of these orbit cities, including Brighton, because a lot of families and people do want to be there. It's a different lifestyle. Also got close to the downtown area as well. All right, so there you have it. You know, 5 cities, 5 completely different versions of a life in and around the Ann Arbor orbit. And honestly, every single one of them is a great place to land, okay, depending on what you're looking for. You know, go with Saline if you want to be close to Ann Arbor with strong schools and a real community feel. You know, go with Ypsilanti if you want that urban energy, kind of creativity, close to the city. Dexter's got that small town, you know, with a lot of character. You got the Huron River, people are outdoors all the time. Or go to Chelsea if you want that culture community, a little bit more artsy, and you want a little bit more room to breathe. Or go with Brighton if you want the whole package, you know, lakes, downtown, land, schools, and you're okay with a little bit of a longer drive into the city. So what I found over the years of working with so many of you guys to help you relocate to the area is that most people, once they really start exploring the orbit, they start realizing, you know, pretty quickly which one of those feels right. So if this video helped you get your bearings about the Ann Arbor orbit, go ahead and subscribe. You know, I put out new content every single week on the markets here in Ann Arbor and the surrounding areas. And if you are ready to get started, if your move is happening and you're at the point where you do want to talk through your specific situation, you know, I do got a link in the description where you can book a Zoom call with us and we'll get you started. Relocation is what we do day in and day out. For a lot of people who are moving, we got a game plan for you. Go check out those other videos on the channel and I'll see you on the next one.